Hello. Cool. I'm just checking some stuff. Hope I did this right. Host has joined. Am I the host? Okay.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, let's see here.
Hello, Justin. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am just dandy. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have a couple other students that should be hopping on. Hopefully, as the call goes. I have started recording, so I'll go through and edit stuff where I need to. But we have.
What's going on here? Who knows why it's doing it? Why did my internet drop out? See what it does. Oh, wow. I'm back, I swear. Connecting to audio. Okay. Computer. Check. Hello. You guys hear me at all?
I can hear you. I can hear you.
My internet dropped out for a quick second. I don't know why, but
I think it's the weather.
It could be. Yeah, it totally just like dropped out, and I guess it's been doing it kind of on and off throughout the morning. But hoping that it stays good.
I hope so too.
Yeah, everything froze, and I was like, I can't hear anybody. So, but it's nice to see.
Yeah, you froze on our screen too.
Yeah, I had to had to rebuffer and reconnect, and I think we're good now.
All right, perfect. Well, I
hopes.
was just letting you know that I'm turning it over to you, so feel free to jump right into it.
Okay, we have just I see Dan on here and you, and I guess if somebody else jumps on, they'll have to rewatch later what they've missed.
Exactly. I am recording it too, so this way we can put it on our little forum thing that we're launching this summer.
Cool. Yeah, repost it, whatever. So I have some notes here that I'm gonna hopefully open. Let's see if I can get them to do what I want it to do. But basically, it's kind of how to, if you haven't recorded yourself, that's not what I wanted. If you haven't recorded yourself at all, it kind of is a good basis of what this is kind of going to be. Let me log in. But it kind of starts off with obviously your song. You know, you have to have a song before you can even record. Well, I guess you can write a song as you're recording, but that does make a little bit of a difference, as opposed to not having something to record. But say you have a song that you've recorded and you want to add some microphones and stuff like that to kind of record yourself and get things kind of set that way. And basically, you might want to record yourself for myriads of reasons. You know, people who are, you're sending stuff to venues, or you're sending stuff to producers that you want to work with. You know, you're like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think we can do with it? And there's also other just like social media and other content, things like that. But that's kind of the purpose of why we would record ourselves. Also, there's just a few other things like that you might want to do when you record yourself for live streaming, which is also kind of in the content creation. But usually you would start with your equipment you have, whatever that might be. Mostly, you know, if you already have a laptop, that's kind of a good place to start. Equipment wise, you can get cheap interfaces like this that have myriad of inputs and outputs and microphone inputs and as well. And that's kind of like a quick synopsis of this gear that we're using. It all connects either USB or also kind of would connect via, you know, there's a myriad of other options. Thunderbolt, USB are kind of the two main ones. If you're old school and you got an older computer, Firewire is still kind of around on some of the older machines that exist. But that's kind of as I kind of run through this, I'm kind of going through some of this a little quicker than I probably want to, but I figured I would kind of outline it first and then kind of go piece by piece. You're going to want a good microphone. That's going to help you out, and you can get stuff pretty inexpensively nowadays. Shure makes stuff like the SM57 and the SM58. Get them for about $100 a piece. You can start with those two mics and get myriad of sounds working for you. Your room is another thing that you might want to consider. I'm in a recording studio here. That's why it looks the way that it does. And there's acoustics and all that kind of vary into also recording yourself and getting the best sound. Packing blankets are great. And I might lean into that a little bit more for a moment here as I set this over here. Acoustics are going to help you greatly when recording yourself and getting your best sound. And not just like acoustic guitar, like the room acoustics itself. The sound bounces around in a room, and that's kind of problematic at times. You might go into a room and like if you clap, you'll hear an echo, or it might be really reverberant and kind of spacious. And those are all good things to have. But to start off, you may not want that. You may not want you're recording your voice and you're singing, and you may not want it to sound like you're in a bathroom. You want it to be kind of dry, as a sense is a word. I moved my desk. It's a sense that, you know, you want something that's going to sound clear. And if you have it in a room that's super reverberant or has a lot of echo and stuff to it, your vocal's not going to sound as clear, or your guitar's not going to sound as clear, or drums. Although there are positives to having those types of things in a room. Drums do sound great. You've got like Led Zeppelin when the levee breaks. That's in a very reverberant room. You hear it. You know, that's a very spacious sound. It can work for you. But if you're going to be recording something and then sending it to someone who's going to then mix it or produce it for you, you're gonna want to send them the best things that you can. And there's all sorts of editing things that can also go along with this. So, you know, you record, and there's plugins that can help you with this as well. Take reverb out or add. There's also plugins that will take the pops and clicks out of things in case you're recording and something happened with the jack on your guitar and it started getting a little crunchy at times. There are tools that will help you in that sense take things out. But kind of getting back to the gear itself, like we have this interface here. This is one of one we have as a backup and some other various things. It's good to have a backup too, if you can, because stuff breaks. But on this particular unit, we're going to start with a very important knob, and you can kind of see it here if I can get as close as I can to the camera. It's kind of hard to see. You have this stuff here. You have these two knobs, and basically on these two knobs, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't have any other knobs I'm supposed to talk about here. But these two knobs are your gain knobs, and gain structure is a very, very important thing to have. And it's an important thing to have because it sets the level of the microphone. It can also, if you have it up too loud, it'll add distortion, which digital distortion is bad. Analog distortion can be good, but in this case, it would be digital. So these are turned down. If I were to turn this all the way up, there are some mics where that you kind of have to do that with, but generally you would never really need to go up quite that loud on an interface. Or down, like all the way down is going to be off. So that's usually, if it's down, it's usually off or really low. But that's kind of where you want to start. You want to start with good signal, good acoustics and good signal are the two things that you're going to want to do. And kind of going back to acoustics, there are a myriad of ways that you can DIY acoustics. Blankets are great, mattresses, blankets, those two things. Pillows from your couch. If you're going to DIY, if you don't want to spend a large amount of money to build, or, you know, there are companies that make acoustic panels that are very much, they're adjustable, they move, they can, you know, they're kind of custom built for your room, where like couch you have, pillows you have, blankets you have around. Closets full of clothes are great for recording in as well. If you're trying to get some amount of isolation out of stuff that is kind of being problematic. Or you're in an apartment and you're like, I can't be super loud. Go into your closet and record your vocals. I've done stuff like that and it's come out great. Be surprised the amount of stuff that you can do with an iPhone and a closet. You can just sit in there and record straight to your phone if you got an idea and you want to make sure that idea sounds good. That's gonna help you out greatly. But yeah, those two things, gain structure and mic placement kind of goes along with gain structure, but basically gain structure and acoustics are your top priority kind of in the beginning, because you want stuff to sound good as you can with what you've got. Or even if you want to buy stuff, you can go buy stuff from Prime Acoustic. I've got something on my ceiling. You can maybe, I don't know if you can see it. It's on the ceiling above me. I don't know if it's in shot or not, but there's stuff from Prime Acoustic, GIK, ATS. These are all companies that you can buy like acoustic panels from, and you can put them in your room and make them sound better, which will help you make your recording sound better. And then you can send those to somebody who's going, like myself, who would mix them and they'd be like, wow, these sound really great. You know, we can definitely make them sound even better and get your stuff to a whole new level of quality and even just production. Makes it easier if you start out with good quality stuff, good quality sounds and songs. I know songs are going to differ, but definitely good sounding songs. It makes the production process go a whole lot quicker, and you can definitely. I'm sorry, I got a frog in my throat there. You could definitely get things rolling a lot quicker, and there's a lot less that whoever is producing this might have to actually do. They might not have to play with your stuff quite as much. They might just be like, oh yeah, we're gonna do some minor things to it, add some effects, and we're gonna keep going forward with it. But after you get all these kind of things dialed down, like the gain structure, your mic placement and gain structure go very well. You get a mic closer to a source, it's going to sound louder, and if you get, then when you get it further away. So it just depends, and there's different things that also go along with getting a mic closer. There's a thing called proximity effects. That's where mic gets really boomy. So you might want a really boomy sound, so you get it closer. If you want it maybe a little thinner sounding, less boomy, you just kind of pull it away, and that's kind of like EQing, doing equalization to your sound. But mic placement is key because you don't want to be too close and you don't want to be too far away. But sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. It's all kind of experimental at that point. You kind of got to play with the sound that you're using, a guitar, a drum, an amplifier, rare occasion pianos. If you have a piano in your house, that's great. You can use piano. Piano can be used for all sorts of things, not just playing piano, but you can throw sound at a piano and record that, and it does some fun stuff. That I can get into a little in a later time, or if someone has questions, they can send me some questions and I can answer those as well. But that's kind of a synopsis of that as a whole. I'm just trying to think of a mic technique, and if you can get your mic technique down and your gain structure down, they'll help you out. And if anybody's having any questions, also feel free to ask me. I'm a myriad of information about all this stuff, but if I've said anything so far that anybody has a question about, feel free to ask me, because I know I run through a lot of stuff, and sometimes I run through it a little too quick, which I was hopefully trying to give it a little bit of time for some questions as well.
I always have a list of them, and I'm sure Dan has some as well.
Right.
We just try to wait until the end.
Absolutely.
Just not to like interrupt.
Which is fine.
But I have a couple questions in regards to some of the stuff that you've spoken about.
Okay.
First off is most artists that are just starting out, and you kind of hit the nail on the head. They do not have access to the best recording room or best recording space. And they are often going to start recording their projects in their apartment, on their computers or on their tablets or phones. And you know, they can be in the thick of it, be in the role of it, or whatever you want to call it, and be recording what they think is an awesome track. But when they're listening to it back, they can hear their neighbor, you know, flushing the toilet or running up and down the stairs. And they might think that they have to go through and completely re-record the whole track. But you were talking about how there are some tools that are available that will help kind of streamline this process.
Right.
That make it a bit easier for musicians who are recording in their home or in their basement or in their apartment. And they might pick up that random sound because most renters, they can't go through and glue a bunch of sound panels up.
Which is kind of where pillows and blankets, you can go on Amazon for like, I think it was like $50, and you can buy like a 5-pack of moving blankets, which are thick. They're pretty heavy blankets that you could drape over a chair, or like your closet. Your closet's filled full of clothes. It's a great place.
That's a good place to go through and, you know, make a little makeshift recording booth. But would you mind talking a bit more about some of the tools that are available that musicians can use if they do pick up some of that additional sound?
Some of the software, these recording softwares that we have out today, Logic, Pro Tools, all the ones, Studio One, there's so many out there. A lot of them have some of these functions built into them, and some of them you have to purchase separately. But like Isotope makes a software suite called RX. It comes with, I want to say it comes with 10 plugins that you can put in your recording software. And they have one, there's one called Denoise, which does exactly that. It just denoises, it takes his noises, and you can filter it out. With the invention of now AI coming into play in the audio world, There's some AI ones out there that I've been playing with. I haven't quite gotten them to do exactly what I want, or when I've been sent stuff that needs to be denoised, I still end up going back to the kind of the older style tools that don't have the AI built into them. But there's a lot of them that are starting to come out there. What was their one? Acon Digital. They make a bunch of stuff that uses AI. Isotope is making stuff that's using more AI type stuff. What's the other one? There's another one that I use and I can't remember off the top of it. But as AI kind of has come into play, they've been able to pull some of this stuff out via that way. There are some online tools you can go to. If you just search in like AI denoise, there's a myriad of some are free. Some you pay like a subscription, like $5 a month, of denoising type plugins. If I can find them here, AI denoising. If you, it's audio AI denoise audio. If you type that into Google, you get a very myriad of one. Lander has one that works pretty well. It does AI. There's another one that it's LALA. It's Lala. It's a really weird name, but they have a denoising voice plugin remover that kind of removes background noise and anything else that you might want removed. Sometimes you record something and Magic Dust is another one that I've used that works pretty well. It's an audio denoiser. You can use it for a week for free, or you can pay their subscription, which I'm not entirely sure what their subscription fee is right now. But that's one. That's one that I have used, and it works fairly well. There's still that whole technology is still kind of new, so it's you kind of have to still play with it a little bit. But
you're saying that it's possible for a starting musician to go through, and you essentially, it sounds like you have two options when it comes to recording and doing the first round of editing your songs, wherein you can use your trained ear and edit it yourself, or you can potentially use one of these AI featured applications that can kind of help you along, which I can see how it would be beneficial for a musician who is kind of learning how to train their ear to utilize one of these AI systems.
Yeah, and AI is kind of a scary thing in the audio world right now, or even just musician world in general, because it's like it's so new and we don't know exactly what it's going to do long term. But there are some very interesting stuff that's coming out when it comes to like denoising audio, taking sounds out that you don't want, or you've recorded something like you played your guitar and you sang and you record that with your phone, but now you're like, I put it into my software and I want to take it apart and kind of remix that. You can absolutely do that with AI. Or you can, like if you have Logic, they have a separator that's built into it. It's a little more basic, but there's so many ones out there. Acon Digital makes one that's called Remix, I think. But you can throw in like a stereo file that you've recorded on your phone, and it'll break it out into all the separate tracks, and you can remix that stereo track without having to like re-record your thing. It's kind of, we're kind of getting to the point in the world with AI and all this stuff that you can use these tools to help pull out the neighbor's flushing toilet or a dog barking in the background like you might hear right now. I've got quite a few of them here, and there's a few times where we've used that for advantage because they were barking and it worked for a track. But then they were barking in a track, and we're like, wow, we really like that one. What can we do? Well, I threw in Isotope, which I own the bundle. The bundle I think was like $300 for the bundle, which for some people starting out, that's kind of large amount of money, but the benefits of it, you use it forever. But we threw that on there, pulled out. I used one of their denoising plugins and pulled out the dog noise, and we're like, okay, cool, we're good. Like,
Perfect.
we don't need that. And I've used it. I've done the opposite to where we recorded something and we're like, uh-oh, we forgot to record this vocal part, but we can hear it in one of the overhead microphones in the drum kit, or the bass amp picked it up for some reason because he's standing close to it. And we used it the opposite. We pulled the vocal out of all the noisiness that was happening, and it worked out great. You wouldn't even have known that was a mistake. It's
You have to love technology nowadays. It really does streamline the process for musicians when they're trying to record. When it comes to musicians utilizing the stuff that we're talking about, from not just the blankets in the closet or the pillows, or using whatever
Right.
program, whether it's using your trained ear or using an AI assistant, what would you say is one of or a few reasons, because I feel that there are a few reasons for a musician to get their first recording as the best that they can get it before they bring it to a sound engineer to bring it along further, or quote
Right.
unquote master it?
Yeah, there's myriad of reasons why you'd want to have it the best that you can. One, the big one is it makes whoever is mixing it, the engineer, it makes his life a lot simpler. Also, well, simpler in a couple ways. It makes it simpler in that he doesn't have to go through, he or she or whoever it might be, goes through and just like, okay, I can do some minor tweaks to this and get it past. You've gotten it 80%, they can take it and do the extra 20, as opposed to like you've given them 20% and now they have to go do the 80%, which makes their time go a lot more. It does saves them money too. It saves you a monetary aspect, as you're not having that engineer spend, they may only have to spend 2 hours on it as opposed to spending 15. So it does save a little bit of money in that aspect as well. I go, yeah, it's going to cost, if I got it 80%, the engineer's going to take it 20, that 20% may cost you an extra, $200, as opposed to the opposite. It might, okay, I did 20, I want them to do the extra 80%. Well, that 80% is going to cost you, $1,000 or more, just depends. That's kind of the main thing. The other is it helps you figure out what you like too, in your songs. Having the best quality, you'll hear you're playing, which, if you're kind of a beginner, like when I began playing drums, I would record them just because I wanted to record drums. I wanted to get better at it. I also wanted to have kind of like a record of, if I had a good idea or something, I play that back and use that idea in a later date. But it showed me as I went forward, as I'd listen back to them like a week later, it would show me like where I needed to improve in my own playing. Whereas a mediocre recording will do that, but if you have a poor quality recording, you may not hear, oh, that my timing is terrible, or I need to work on strumming patterns better. It's just because it's not picking up those details as well. Those are kind of the two major things that I tell people when they want to record themselves. Like, get the best recording you can, whether it's in a closet or a room, or you record at night if you have too much noise going on. Record in the evenings when everybody's kind of like settled down a little bit, or during the day if you have a day off and everybody's gone to work in your apartment building. Record then. I lived in an apartment building, and we would do that. We would wait till about 10 o'clock. Everybody else would go to work, and then we'd start recording, and then we'd end about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, because that's when everybody started kind of coming back home. And it worked out well that way because no one was flushing toilets. You might have an occasional dog barking, but that's in the DIY recording spaces and stuff. That's something you may not always able to get around, like a lawnmower going or something like that. But I still have that problem. I'm in a space that I built where I hear the dogs barking, or I hear,
But that just brings back the importance
Yep.
of the tools
Yep.
for editing the song.
Absolutely.
Now, you have, there are a plethora of style of
Mm-hmm.
musicians. You have solo artists to bands.
Yep.
When it comes to recording, and you're using this closet space, some bands prefer to record at one time
Mm-hmm.
as the song sounds,
Right.
but there are editing tools that allow people to go through and record individually
Yep.
and edit the song afterwards to make it sound like the band was playing together. Would you mind talking a little bit about the perks of, recording each instrument individually versus recording it all together as a band?
Oh no, not a problem at all. Um, there are pros and cons to both of those techniques. Recording together, I prefer recording a band all at once. I have a little more space to do that. If you don't, that might be a little more of a problem because it's hard to fit a four-piece band in a closet that holds two people, or a room that holds like three people. A lot of bands will usually record in like the rehearsal space if they have one, and that works too. Rehearsal spaces, however, can kind of be acoustically negative, because they're not designed to do that. It's just like usually it's let's see. I've seen rehearsal spaces for bands go from basements, which can work pretty well, to storage units. There's a band I met with. Their rehearsal space was literally a storage unit. I was like, I don't know how you guys work this out, but this is awesome, because a lot of storage units won't let you do that. But it was cool. That can be a problematic, recording all at once, because you have everybody singing and playing at once, and it all bleeds together. And you can get a cohesiveness that way if you work it out well. Um, but I've also the one at a time can work well, because you can keep those individual pieces from bleeding into each other. And like during COVID, I did a lot of that. During the pandemic, I we would record with a drummer who was on the West Coast, and then the bass player was on the East Coast. So we just record the drums, and then we'd send it to the bass player. He'd play his stuff over the top of that, and then we'd send it to the keyboard player, and it just kind of bounced around. And it works out pretty well. Like keyboards, you can kind of get around recording. You can record them anywhere if they're digital, because they just plug in and you play it, and you don't have to worry about noise and stuff bleeding in. But drums and stuff gets a little harder. There are digital versions of all of this stuff that you can just plug in, kind of go. But the aspect of playing all together, you get a little more cohesive. You can usually record a little quicker because you are all playing at once. The individual pieces can take more time. Essentially, it just depends on how much time you want to spend. Do you have this much time to spend, or do you have this much time? It just depends. If you have more time, which as a band, or even writing your own songs, you can take however much time you really want. But if you've set a date where you're like, hey, we're gonna have an album release party in the end of the month, and it is now the middle of the month, like that kind of squeezes your time down a little bit on what you can do. Which then you might have to just change your tactics. But there's not really a negative or a positive really to either of those techniques. It just depends on what you're comfortable with. A lot of bands can do that, like that, that come here and record. We do it that way because they play that way. They play a show together. They all play at once, and we have enough space and
To do it,
and
yeah.
we have enough space and equipment. That's the other thing that does boil down. To do it all at once, you generally will sometimes need more equipment. Now, saying that, with all of the AI stuff that can break all this out and split it and do all the fun stuff, you could essentially do it with your phone in the middle of the room, or a laptop, and the laptop microphone, or a small interface like this that only has a couple inputs. You can do the couple inputs and then throw it into AI, and it'll break it all out, and then you can mix it that way and send it to somebody. And I've had hip hop guys that do that to me a lot. They're like, "Hey, we want you to remix our song," and they just send me the stereo file of what they've
Right.
already done, and I just throw it into the AI. It splits it all out for me. I remix it and I send it back to them.
And
So,
that's where, and I just want to touch back to something that you stated at the beginning, which was having good equipment to start with will help you in the long run.
it will in the long run. Now I know some people are like, "Oh, that's really scary and it's really expensive," and today's age now, minus some of the stuff that's coming down the pipeline, uh, it's very inexpensive. Like this interface here, this is a universal audio one. People love them. They do make some good stuff. I think this one was like $300. I think I just paid $300 for this. It's the UA Volt, and they have various ones. Focusrite has some that are also in that same price range that are in that $300 to $400 range, or you can buy ones that only have two inputs that are even cheaper, like 150. What? And some of these smaller ones, like this one and the one from Focusrite, is not only will they plug into a computer and you can use it with your laptop, but you can plug your phone into it and use it with your phone or your iPad and completely just. I met with a guy the other day who does exactly that. He has an iPad and a little interface, and that's all he's got. He's like, "This is all I use." I'm like, "Your stuff sounds great." So you can do it with lesser equipment. You just need to kind of know what you're doing and kind of gotten that kind of built into your mindset and your ear, because you definitely want to develop your ear with better equipment. So if you do use something a little lesser, you can kind of work around it. But as you do, if you start out with something that's a little bit lesser, you will find ways to work and workarounds to make stuff work. That's just kind of how our brains are wired. We adapt. So
And the last question that I had, or I had noted before I asked or turn it over to Dan to see if he has any questions, is would you mind talking a bit more about what you refer to as game structure? Is
okay,
that something like a musician when they're starting out structuring like what they can anticipate in the coming months, like
it's
expense wise, what they need to
okay.
do wise?
So gain structure basically boils down to how much is coming into this box. And that's what these knobs do. They do that, and like I said, I tend to go through things quicker than I want to. It's just how my brain. I go through stuff really quickly because that's second nature to me, and I don't think about it as it's not for everybody. But gain structure is the amount of signal that's coming into your interface, your computer, your laptop, your iPhone, whatever it is. Now it is one of those things that you can budget for it because cheaper boxes have less. They won't let you get as loud. They won't let you. Some of them. Oh, there's one I was looking at. There's things like some of these newer interfaces and stuff have things like smart. They have smart preamps, which basically you plug your guitar, your microphone, whatever it might be, into it, and then you just start singing, and it automatically adjusts everything because it's just sensing what's coming in. And that technology I haven't played a whole lot with, which I find it very fascinating because basically you just plug in and you start playing. There's no knobs to turn. There's nothing. It just recognizes that, oh, it needs to turn stuff down or it needs to turn stuff up.
I mean, I can see how that would be beneficial to a musician who's training their ear.
Yep.
So they have that unit that
Absolutely.
helps them, listen for what they should be aiming for
Right.
without having to adjust anything.
Right.
So they have a more or a better chance of, getting themselves to that same or similar point
Absolutely.
on a unit where they have to adjust themselves.
Right. It also helps you in if you all of a sudden have an idea. You're like, oh, I have this idea that I want to record. You don't have to sit there and fiddle with a bunch of knobs and then lose your idea. You can just plug it in and go. There's a company, Focusrite makes a couple. Their new stuff does it. Audient is another company that makes pretty affordable stuff. They have a line called Evo, EVO. Those two products have this. Actually, even some of the new Universal Audio stuff has it too. But Universal Audio stuff is expensive. The stuff that has it is very expensive. But Focusrite and Audient have very affordable lines that have this smart. It's like a smart input. You just plug into it. You start playing, and it'll detect. I think with them, you do hit one button. You hit like start. Use kind of those type things, and it'll start sensing that you're playing, and then it sets it, and then you're good, and you just keep rolling. Takes you. You don't even have to play a full minute. You play 30 seconds, and it automatically adjusts and knows what you've done. And if I'm not mistaken, some of them they kind of continually do that as you're playing.
Okay.
So
Now, if let's say, so a solo artist, their game structure might work for the unit that you're talking about today. But let's say it's a band that has two guitarists, a bassist, a drummer, a keyboardist, and then multiple horn instruments.
Right.
That the unit that you're talking about today wouldn't essentially work for the game structure that that band needs.
Well, it would, because they make units that have like Focusrite makes their Scarlet line, which has eight microphone preamps. You could do almost that exact thing with that unit with eight inputs. So does the Audient one is really cool because they make one. Their current one does 8 inputs, and then you can buy an expander that plugs into it that does the exact same thing as the interface. So you could expand it out to 16 inputs and do the exact same thing, and have the auto gain adjustments essentially for every input coming into it. And then you just have band. You guys roll up. You guys hit start. Let it sense all inputs, and then you're good to go.
That's pretty cool.
It's some cool technology that's coming down, and I think as time goes on, this is going to be a function that's going to be in more of the recording world for bands that want to record themselves. It works great, or artists, singer songwriters, or you've got a trio. You're a bluegrass band. There's 3 of you.
Do you see it becoming a potential staple in an engineer position like yourself, where you're doing a live performance and the band wants to go through and record it?
Absolutely. Like a live performance like that is fantastic, because you're going to change how you play as in a live performance than you would in like a studio recording, because you're playing to the crowd. You're going to base how you're feeling off what the crowd is doing, so it's going to change how you play a little bit. And as an engineer recording a live show, it works really well that way. We do a lot of where we record live shows, and it's very different than when someone plays in a studio. Their gain structure, the loudness that they play out changes dramatically as the beginning. So, also works if you were to record a rehearsal as opposed to a show, because rehearsal you're not going to play as loud as you will during the show. So that smart gain would help fix some of that. Like, we decided to play louder than we did during. Guitar player, he turned his amp up right before show started than he did during the sound check. So
no, that's interesting to hear that, as music goes through and changes and technology develops, that you're no longer needing a plethora of sound engineers to go through and do like a stadium or an arena. There's a chance that it could be streamlined due to one of those programs, which to me is pretty interesting.
And that's why it's kind of scaring everybody right now, because it's streamlining things, and people don't like that it's streamlining. I have stuff here that's streamlined my whole work program. I mix a whole song in 2 hours now because of some of these pieces of hardware and software that are coming out. But they're designed to help the starting band, the starting musician. They're not necessarily designed for someone
that's
myself.
That's what I'm looking at it as.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And to me, that's exciting. Everyone deserves a fair shake, and that's just giving everyone a bit, an easier attempt at that.
Yeah, I have a band right now that I'm going to be working with in the coming weeks, where they're going to bring me an SD card. They're going to bring me one of these little SD cards, and that's going to be their entire show for me to mix off of. And I was like, that's stupid cool. Like you just bring
That
it,
is so awesome.
plug it in, I drop the files on to my computer, and I'm off to the races. You know, tell me which songs you want me to avoid and which ones you don't want me to mix, and we'll go from there.
Go from there. No, I love that. Well, that is all of my questions. Dan, do you have any questions for Justin?
Yeah, I appreciate it, Justin. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Great information on that smart game. It's about time somebody came up with that. To your thought on that, I have that issue too. I have an idea, and then you're messing around with the levels,
right?
Instead of getting the idea down, and that's a great workaround. That is really cool.
Yeah, it's a cool.
I've done some. Go ahead.
Oh, it's a cool piece of software, by far, and hardware.
Yeah. I've over the years, I was in a couple different bands, and we did some recordings, but I wasn't on the engineering side. We were just playing.
Right.
And this is years ago, before we did some digital. And oh gosh, last 15 years, I guess I've been doing solo stuff. And I'm kind of working with a partner that I have in California. Used to live in Colorado, here where we are. And we're just doing songwriting stuff. So I've kind of put together a small little studio where I can just demo some ideas, maybe put them down quickly and send them back and forth. Right. And then we would go into the studio out there where he had, and do a cleaner version while we're thinking. My thought is that something that you do up there? I'm kind of looking for a studio here I can work with, and that it sounds exactly what you're doing with bands and things like that. We're just doing singer-songwriter mostly, some pop stuff, and
that's absolutely.
I kind of like the.
I'm sorry, I cut you off there.
I would kind of like to check out your setup, is what I'm thinking.
Absolutely. We allow people to come in here all the time and check out stuff, even if you're not going to record and you just want to. We have people who come just want to hang out and talk music. That's also something that I do quite regularly. I can talk about this stuff all day long, really. Unfortunately, I don't always have the time and get to do that. But that's something we definitely do, and we do work with a lot of bands where they want us to mix something. They come in and they sit on the couch and we just mix. And then there's people that come in and just, hey, we're a singer-songwriter group. We want to record a couple tracks, maybe have, someone else kind of play on them too, that we'll send off to, I did one a couple weeks ago where we did that, and they're like, yeah, we have a pedal steel player, but he can't make it. So we're going to record everything here, and then we're going to send it to him to play pedal steel on. And like, that works too.
Sure.
But
that's perfect. That's kind of what I've been looking for as an outlet. I'm closer here, so I don't have to fly to California.
Right. Yeah, we're definitely a lot closer than California. Well, I don't know how much closer, depending on what part of Colorado you're in, but yeah, we're definitely closer than parts of California. But we also.
Sorry to cut you off.
You're fine.
Being a person who has worked with Fox and Robyn on numerous different projects, from live music events to recordings, I swear by them. Him and his whole team are just really educated, and they love what they do.
Yep. And we work with lots of different artists, not just singer-songwriter. We do hip-hop and rock and roll and bluegrass. There's podcasts and all sorts of various. I can't believe podcasts are now a genre, but they kind of are. It's like a thing now, where that's a genre of not music, but just a genre of creation. Because that's what we're doing. We're all creating stuff. So, but yeah, we work with a whole different slew of people, and it's always fun. It's always fun to see what's coming and who's got what, and because we're all different people and do the things differently.
Oh yeah. All kind.
What?
Yeah, you're kind of broke up. you kind of broke up there a minute. I didn't quite catch what you said there, Dan.
Saying my internet connection is unstable.
Oh, that's definitely going around today.
Absolutely.
So if I email you with some contact information, can we set up a time to hook up somewhere?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. You can send us email or text or through our website, or you can just send it to you can see kind of my moniker after my name here, Fox and Robyn Rec. If you just type that in with @gmail.com, that's our email.
Easy. That's easy.
And I can also send you an email too,
Yep.
Dan, with their link introducing you to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Earlier today, I looked at some of your setup, and it looks nice. Very nice.
Well, thank you. We
Sounds
try we
great.
try hard. We try hard to make things sound as best that we can, and also have a good looking space to do it in, because that's also a thing, to have a space that inspires. So
Well, I'm sorry. Are you all in like one room?
pretty much, yeah.
There's no control room division or
Not
type.
not at the moment. We're working on some things, like a B room that will also kind of work as not only a B room but also as isolation for recording as well. But it's all
Sure.
things that take a little bit of design and a little bit of money. So we're
yeah.
we're working on it. Plus we got to clean that room out. It's a disaster right now. Because that's where all the cases and stuff for all the stuff live right now. So I got to find new places for all the cases for the drums and the guitars, and even our console behind us here. It has a case. It has a massive case that you could use as a small dining room table. So it's all stuff like that we got to figure out where to put. So, but as of right now,
Great.
we're one large space. It actually works pretty well that way to communicate with musicians instead of hitting a button and having to talk through a microphone. I can just turn around and be like, "Hey guys, we need to stop,"
Yeah.
or we need to do this instead. Instead of, and most people feel a little more comfortable. I've noticed that way because, especially if you're a first time recording, you don't have someone peering at you through a piece of glass in another room, and then you see them talking but not, and then you're like self-conscious of like, well, are they talking about me? It's just, no, we're just talking. But it is a little more comfortable that way because I can just turn around and be like, hey guys, we need to do this. Makes me feel a little bit a part of the band or a part of the thing. But it's not a bad thing to have a control room and a separate like live tracking room. They both have their pros and cons.
It does get intimidating though at first, especially because you just kind of, I have to go in that room by myself and play this part.
Right.
Yeah. Hope I don't mess up. I'm watching.
Yeah. It's kind of like being under the magnifying glass, whereas the one room it's a little more organic. It's more like, oh yeah, we're just hanging out here making music in that aspect. So, and I like that way. I like to feel like I'm just hanging out with friends making music, even if we're not friends. I like to feel that way.
Comrades in arms.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Oh, and Dan, did you have any other questions?
At the moment I don't. I really appreciate. I was blown away with that smart gang idea. It just struck a nerve.
It's a cool. If you get a chance to check it out, go to Audient or Focusrite. They both of those companies on their websites. They have a whole thing about how it works, and it's or if you just go into like YouTube and type in like Smart Gain Focusrite, it'll pull up all of their like videos about how it works, and it's pretty cool. Like, it's something that's going to be coming down the pipeline, I think, for a lot of companies as we get into the world of like everybody can create and not have to worry quite so much about it, because it's kind of daunting. If you look at even like stuff I have behind me here, you look at it like that's a lot of knobs. Like, I
think I've said that numerous times, just even at the live shows with the PA board that you bring. I'm just like, what?
Yeah, like how does that work? It's a lot of knobs, and if you're new to it, it can make you not want to. I have a buddy who he's a guitar player, and when he first started recording, he was actually kind of like I helped him along, but he was just like, I don't know if I want to touch any of this. And I have interns who come in and work for us here, and they're the same at the beginning. They're like, I don't want to touch that. Like it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to bite. I swear. Well, it might, but it that's a different problem. Uh, but yeah, it's a lot of knobs and it can be a little daunting. But once you kind of get comfortable with it and you know what each thing kind of does, it's not as scary. But with the smart gain, it's plug in, press a button, and start playing, and it'll kind of
It's such a
adjust.
game. Yeah.
It's a game changer for so many aspects.
Yeah, I'm excited for the next two education classes because Justin's doing June and July with
Yep.
us as well too.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to be going more in depth in regards to this. This class was more of just like an overview,
Mm-hmm.
the basics, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I loved learning about the smart gain and
Right.
just about just the game structure and what that was.
Right.
And Dan, you said that you didn't have any more questions. Justin, is there anything else that you wanted to chat with us about today?
Not today. I think if there's anything else, I would probably add it on to the ones in that are coming up in the following months. Because if I share too much, then I'm not gonna have anything that. That's not true. I have a lot of stuff I could
Take a
talk
little
about.
bit. Keep your powder dry.
Yeah, yeah. I have a lot more that I can talk about, but
Yeah.
I kind of like to keep it. It's kind of like leaving people wanting more is kind of my
Exactly.
my thing
I'm
about it.
excited for next month. And thank you both so much for your time today. Our recordings are going to be on our website in July once it relaunches. We're having a whole separate forum whole separate forum built.
Awesome.
So once that launches, it will make more sense.
Okay.
But thank you guys both so much for today.
Of
And I will send you, Dan, an email introducing you to Justin.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Becca.
Thank you guys. Have an amazing Memorial Day.
You too. Have a great
You too.
weekend.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye. Bye. I hope everybody enjoyed that. That was a little class I was teaching on Zoom. If you did enjoy it, feel free to watch it back or just kind of watch our other content. I am going to log off here. It's been great. It's been an hour. Thank you for watching, and we hope you see you all next time. We will do some more of these production type stuff as time goes forward. But thanks for watching, and in case we missed you, good morning, good evening, and good night.